Okay. It's Friday. It's Real Radio, broadcasting live from B-Box. The guest is here. You know Nana's here, so there will be video of this whole shenanigans. I don't even know if that was proper English. I'm still learning. We're going to start on time, so I'm always excited when we start on time. We're going to play music to start off the show. All of our shows, anything you missed, is on realradio.co. Yes, this is also a podcast, which means you can listen at any time. I'm doing a little bit of upgrades. You know what I'm saying? We're renovating the website. I'm lying. The website is brand new. Stick around. Reach out to us at CTN Creative. We'll be right back.
Yeah. Black.
Yes, this is Real Radio. And how will I introduce this guest? Basically, this is another instance of the social media gods connecting the dots for me, and the internet's basically interneting and giving me a connection to somebody that I think is going to be interesting, and we will discover it through this show, because we have Karmay in the studio, and she runs Gloetry Assembly.
Yes. Good job.
I'll let you describe what Gloetry Assembly is, though. That's where I stop.
Okay, so
what
I guess
is it?
that's
I have an idea, but let the people know.
Okay, all right. So Gloetry Assembly is a wellness business for women and girls of color to come together and heal, have a space for reflection, and to feel safe, and to cultivate sisterhood, hopefully. So, yeah.
How do you define a safe space? And I'm assuming specifically for women of color. What is that? What does that look like?
Well, I think the number one thing for a safe space for women of color is that it's only women of color and that is honored.
Okay.
Because, there are instances where I feel like maybe there's a situation where a business is like, it's for women of color, but then there's not just women of color in the building. So the demographic has to be honored.
So you're filtering out ambiguous people?
Yeah.
And I say that saying, like, you know how some people may be like half of something, but they look a certain way?
No. If
you're not filtering that out?
No. If you're mixed or whatever, you can. If you, it's self-identified. So
okay,
if you
gotcha.
Self-identify as a woman of color, then we welcome you into our space. We want you to be with us. But in terms of like, say, a Caucasian woman came into the circle, we'd have to say, okay, we have to honor what this space is. So number one, safe space it needs to be honored for women of color. And then secondly, what creates a safe space, there's a number of different things that we do, but I would say the second thing is making sure we have guidelines that everybody is on the same page with, and that everybody understands, everybody can honor. And if a guideline needs more explanation or needs me to dive a little bit deeper into it so we fully understand it, then we'll have to do that. But making sure that everybody honors the guidelines. And then making sure that the purpose is clearly stated around what we're doing here and why we're gathering. I think that's really important, because if there's different expectations or different agendas for coming into a space, that's where conflict can arise. So just making sure that everybody understands, like, this is a space for healing. That's the first and foremost thing. This is where we can come and be vulnerable. That's the first and foremost thing. If you're with it, chill with us. And if you're not, then it's probably not the best space for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why specifically for women of color?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So when Gloetry started, it was for everyone. And
this is a development.
This is a development.
Okay, go for it.
It's a development. So when Gloetry first started, it was for everyone. I wanted to bring women together to just really get real and to get away from superficiality, from just going out to the clubs, going bars, and just having really superficial conversations. I wanted something deeper, and I was in a place of soul searching, and my friends are from all different races and from all different backgrounds. And so I asked my own network, my own close friends who are white women, Persian, Afghani women, black women from all different backgrounds, Asian women, to come to my apartment in Clinton Hill and just have a conversation. And they all came. And as I started serving in 2017 and then 2018, I was actually inviting a lot of Black women to come to the circle.
What do you mean by serving?
Oh, just what I mean in terms of what I'm doing, like what I'm offering. Yeah, what I'm offering. Serving a plate of hot food.
Copy that. If you could talk in an accent for the rest of the show, I'm laughing.
So I was actually inviting, telling my friends to tell their friends, and I actually was getting a lot of feedback from Black men actually being like, well, I want to invite my sisters, but they want to only come if it's for Black women, or if it's for women of color, or if it's for women that, you know, that they can talk about some of those deeper layers that when we feel like we might be censoring ourselves in other spaces for white comfort. And so I was really grappling with that, to be quite honest, for a while, because I wanted it to be women and focused around women, and all women come together and have these conversations because we share experiences just as women. But then as I got deeper into hearing the why behind that, and started to fully understand, then I was like, you know, let me actually just do my first sister circle at Heal House, which is how we connected. And I saw the deeper layers of trauma that affect us. You know, I'm a Black woman, so it affects me and my sisters in a different way. And there was just so much more to the story. And I was like, this needs its own care and its own attention. And I just don't really know if there's a lot of other places that a woman of color, or a Black woman specifically, can come and like kind of really share these soul, you know, these heart-based topics, and really have that consistently. So I was like, you know what, let me actually focus on that. And then as I got deeper in it, I was getting really sort of like, wow, I'm healing from this as well. I see that this is really needed. And then I just continued on that way.
Did a particular event trigger this?
Trigger what exactly?
The fact that so the soul searching, because it sounds like it started with soul searching for yourself.
Yes.
And then it evolved in bringing other people into the fold. Mm-hmm. Did this particular life event trigger this?
Oh, trigger Gloetry in the first place.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Absolutely.
Like, I don't, like, it's not like you wake up, it's not like something where like, hey, let me just go ahead and do that. I feel like something happens and then it's, oh, okay, now we got to figure this out.
Yeah, it's a really great question. Yeah, you know, I was having my late 20s crisis. I think we all get that, right? Like you turn like 27, 28.
I thought it was like midlife.
No. Oh, there's a late 20s crisis now, and I've talked to people about it. It's so true. It's real. Where you get like 3 years before you're 30, you're just like, what am I doing with my life? And so I was there's a lot of different things that triggered it, but I would say the main thing was I was feeling sort of like there was an emptiness to what I was doing, and I wasn't really feeling fulfilled by my work anymore, and I wasn't really feeling like I was getting that much stimulation or fulfillment or joy out of the typical way of congregating and coming together, you know, whether it was going out with my friends or whether it was going to work. I just feel like it was so monotonous and predictable, and I was just like, there has to be more to life than just this waking up every day and doing the same freaking thing. I was like, there's no way I can live like this. Like, I literally was looking ahead, like, I cannot do that for the next like 30, 40 years. Like, there has to be something else. And so I left my job, and
you quit your job.
I quit my job, and I did. Why'd you correct me?
Because left and quit. Quit, I feel like is more intense. I'm just saying. But that's my biased opinion.
Okay, all right.
Quit is like, yeah, exclamation point, I'm out of here.
Yeah, okay, all right, fine. I quit my job.
There you go.
All right, I quit it, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do? So then, yeah, you know, I'm really spiritual, and I pray and everything. So I asked God, you know, and
that's GAWD or
yeah.
GOD?
GOD. I asked God.
I was just checking. there's gods out there too.
There's a lot of gods out there. That's true.
Okay.
That's true. So I called upon God.
Got you.
And this is sort of what the answer was. And I just really followed that because it just felt really good, because I was just like, I have to have a purpose. I have to have a gift. I have to be something, it must be innately mine, and so I think that and I believe we all had it. I was like, Beyonce isn't the only one who is,
watch out, the beehives out there listening.
I know. Beyonce isn't the only one who came to this earth like knowing exactly what her purpose was. So I was just like, I have to have my own, and I found it. I'm a really good at holding space for people, and I'm really good at facilitating and guiding, and I just love intentional gathering, and that's my art.
So you mentioned God, and so at Real Radio I do very little research, but I did do some research, and I looked at some of the past activities. I haven't gotten testimony from people because I haven't been able to locate them, but I did see that in some of the gatherings that you guys do, there have been sessions where you invoke ancestors and you try to communicate with ancestors. So how do you marry the fact that conventional religion has no input from ancestors, whereas the practice or the service that you provide does sometimes seek that, and does that align?
It's funny. I mean, I was listening to your interview with the Brujas, and I think you asked them a very similar question in regards to God.
That is my...
Yes.
So, okay. I'm glad you bring that up, because background to that question is, that is my inner struggle.
Okay.
And I'm curious to see how other people navigate that. But go ahead.
Okay. Well, honestly, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Okay, so I think, if we believe in God, then we believe that God is the source of all things. And God created heaven, earth, humans, man, everything, right? God is the origin. So if everything is from God, and God is the origin, then that means that everything that exists is from this original source. And so when I am... I believe in I have a lot of different words for God, like higher power, the universe, whatever, like this higher elusive entity, right? That, brought forth everything, that we have God living within us. You know what I mean? Like we are all an extension and children of God, right? So, and again, these are my personal beliefs. We are all children of God. So if we're all the children of God, and if we die, as humans, our souls are left, but the soul is still from God. Our souls are still the expression or the entity, the living, elusive entity of God. So when I'm invoking or calling upon my ancestors or whatever, I'm calling upon my honorable ancestors, which is a difference. I want to call upon my honorable ancestors because...
How do you know who's who?
I just trust the ethereals to know that the ones that are of love and light, because there are lower entities, there are lower astral entities out there, there are lower, the demons, whatever you want to call it, there are lower entities out there. So we want to be really specific when we call upon certain things, and certain ancestors and spirits or whatever. And yeah, I feel like if we all come from that same energy, and I'm calling upon energy that is pure love and light, that is therefore an expression of God, and so they just have a more earthly relationship to my either past lives or my life cycle or my family line, and can then give me information or guidance as to how to move forward with whatever I'm asking.
What's that experience like? Is that a conversation? Is that a feeling? Is that a sensation?
I don't know if I can give away all my secrets. No,
okay, cool. Listen, I'm with you. Tell them they gotta pay. Show up, pay up.
I don't know. No, it's okay. I think it's a feeling. But my God and my higher spirit and my ancestors communicate with me through my dreams. So I get a lot of information that way. I see the future, a year, 2 years, next day, all the time.
What I look like next year?
It doesn't work like that.
Oh, okay.
My spirit don't care about you.
Oh, God.
Okay? My spirit care about me. All right? So my spirit ain't like, hey, what's no.
You're not Miss Cleo up in here.
No,
Okay.
no. I'm not just going like, tune in, tune out. No, like it's all when I'm sleeping, and so that's when I get these like messages, and it's very interesting. I think a lot of us are afraid to go within ourselves and tune into ourselves, and I think that we're so used to our external realities that we don't realize that we're creating our reality all the time from the inside out, and that's usually based in our thoughts and our feelings that really drive our behaviors. And I mean, a lot of who we are, what I tell a lot of my clients and when I do a lot of my work is we're only showing about 5% of ourselves at any given time. And the rest of the 95% is all unknown, even maybe to us. And so, doing this work and going within and asking yourself some tough questions and looking at your family line and looking at your family trauma and seeing what you've inherited in your DNA, not just your eyes and your hair and your skin color, but your fears, your anxieties, your worries, your beliefs. That's the kind of stuff that intrigues me, because then I'm like, oh, okay, yes. And you actually, it's scientifically studied now and researched that trauma lives within our DNA. So when we have these, sometimes like they've researched people who've had, like, say, Holocaust victims, right? If they have a certain traumatic event at age 30 or something, they can't explain why, they can trace that back to like a grandparent or a great grandparent who like was put in the chambers at that age or something. It's like very interesting to sort of look at how trauma lives on within us, if it's not healed or rectified or whatever.
We're going to come back and talk and dive deeper into this. I want to play some music, but I have a lot of follow-up questions.
I feel like, I feel your face moving. I feel your brain moving around. Like, what's this girl talking about?
Well, let's do some promo. Let the people know where they can see Gloetry in social media and get an idea what you do. Okay.
So Gloetry Assembly, you can find us at www.gloetry.co. And it's for women and girls who are in search of something deeper. They're looking for more meaning. They're looking for more fulfillment. They're looking for connection, but not just connection with others. They're looking for connection with themselves. If you're feeling like, I don't know why I'm not happy in my job or in my relationships or just in my life right now, or I feel like there's an emptiness. We provide a safe space to have honest conversations and to really reflect and look within, and to ultimately, tap into your own wisdom to guide your journey and to lead you home to yourself. And that's what we want for you. We want for all women, is to come back home to themselves and who they really are. And you can also find us on Instagram if you'd like, Gloetry Assembly. And and you can find all of our other information on there as well. We work out of Heal House once a month. We have a sister circle coming up March 20th. I'm really excited about it. The topic is what is your relationship with being seen? And we're going to look at parental aspects, societal aspects in terms of, did your parents see you for who you are? Did your parents allow you to be who you are? And then how did you receive that, right? So we're going to go into that as well. And then, we have, we also have another retreat coming up. We just got back from Kenya. We'll be going back to Kenya at the end of the year. And if you're just looking to dive deeper and do some self-exploration and self-discovery, then we can definitely support you on that.
And we are Real Radio. You'll find us on realradio.co. We provide this show every Friday from 6:30 to 7:30. Good. feel free to reach out to us at CTN Creative. My promo is not as long as hers. I can't tell you what's happening next week. Just stick around, man. We're here. It's Friday. So to pick up right where we left off, Karmay. So you mentioned several things that the entire time the music was playing, I was going through my brain, figuring out how I'm going to ask you these questions, or putting them in order. Actually, one of those questions I already had written down. So you mentioned the fact that most of the time we're showing 5% of ourselves, and 95% of ourselves we may not know, or we're not showing. So I'm curious, is the goal to show 100% of yourself and all the time?
I think as a matter of survival, right now, it's probably not the best, right? But I do believe that I'm an idealist, and I think that
right now, what do you mean right now?
Oh, I mean like
This
in today's
moment.
society.
Okay.
In today's society, showing all of ourselves is it can actually cause ourselves harm. It could actually hurt us.
What would need to change?
In order for people to be able to show 100% of
I'm
ourselves.
curious I'm curious to see what your utopia is like.
My utopia.
Let's go. So, what is this ideal place that we?
I think in an ideal world, we don't wear any masks. I think if you look at sort of like psychology in general, there's we have our ego self, and then we have our true selves. And the ego selves is mostly our projected self. So it could be like our fears or the personality that we put on in order to save face, essentially, right? So I think that we live in a society where, live in a world where showing all of ourselves is not something that would actually be beneficial to us. But I do believe that in a ideal world, we're all allowed to be authentically ourselves. And I think in order to do that, though, I think there has to be a lot of deconditioning and a lot of healing and a lot of self-reflection because the question that I often ask myself and I ask other people is, who are you really? Who are you who are you besides your conditioning or the way your parents raised you or in the city that you grew up in or the culture that you grew up in, right? Because we get so influenced by our surroundings and our environment and people that we're with that we adopt beliefs and we adopt ideals and behaviors and attitudes from our culture. And I think that it's up to us. It's our responsibility as adults now to start and peel back and say, is this really what I believe? Or is this really who I am? And I think once we do that as a society, when we start promoting self-mastery, then we can be in that world, because it's like the one true thing is love. And if we all are at a place of loving ourselves for who we are, then you can do whatever you want. And I won't mind, because I'm just like, that's your human right. And you should be able to do that.
The reason I asked the question is so the way I see it is, right now we live in an era, because you mentioned, given this times you can't show your full self. We live in an era, I think, where people sometimes demand full transparency, and I don't necessarily know that that's good.
Full transparency in what situations?
Like, people want to know fully who you are when they meet you, or whoever, or whatever, or any other situations. And the example that I was going to bring up is, recently in France, they had this politician who was running for mayor who got caught up with a sex video where he was having an affair with some other woman. Anyway, so that led to this discussion about people saying, well, basically there's a group of people that are saying, well, that's his private life. I particularly don't care what he does in his private life as long as he is a good politician. And other people are like, well, we should know all about this guy. If this is what he does, then... So I'm curious, like, do we really want to know everything about people? And everything is not pretty.
I don't think that being authentically yourselves and showing your authentic self means unloading your life to somebody.
Okay.
I don't think those are the same things. I think in every like I know friends of mine who are like, their goal for this year is to be 100% themselves no matter who they're with, because like in certain situations and certain groups you might change a little bit. You might start to adopt the group's attitude, right? Group think. You might start to behave like them or move like them because it's code switch, because you're just so because it's unconscious. You can't really control it. You've been doing it your whole life, so you're just like, okay, that's what I'm doing. And you don't really know who you are, just you. Like if it was just you, right? And so I think that is a power of this, strength of self, this knowledge of self, where like no matter who you're with or where you go, and I know people like that, where they're consistently the same person and not really molding or changing or bending based off of the dynamics that are around them.
Okay. And you mentioned also the influence of, you said groupthink and the influence of culture and society. Are those things necessarily bad?
Groupthink?
Or influence from culture or from family or from society or city? You mentioned several, basically your environment. So I'm curious to know, are those things necessarily bad, and can you actually develop independent of that? Because I do think to a certain extent we need information to develop. And information comes in also in the sense of culture and other things.
Yeah, and no, I don't think that. So I don't really believe in anything being necessarily bad or good. I don't really believe in black and white. I think there's a lot of gray in life. I feel as though when it comes to being influenced by culture or parenting, that's just a biological thing where we have to, obviously learn from our parents and people around us. But I think if we were in a culture that supported constant mentorship and reflection and examination and exploration, and it wasn't so like right now, I feel like the way that our education system works and the way our society works with going to work, it's very much a one-size-fits-all. And I believe that if we had a society that was more flexible around catering to individuals' gifts or purpose and their why, it's like why, and we actually really catered to that, then we would have a society that is I feel like more in line with my vision, my goals. But I don't think that we're allowed to have a society like that, because putting people in a systematic and very streamlined education and work, it benefits someone else. So I don't really think that it's always anyway.
Can you cater to everyone? Because everyone is different. So are you saying that we should be able to be flexible enough, or we should strive to build a society where there's enough flexibility where each and every individual is catered to or given that level of attention of flexibility?
I mean, my whole principle is really based on an indigenous sort of mindset. Like I think about tribes, for example. Like there's a tribe in Africa somewhere. I don't know the country exactly, but I read this book. It's called The Healing Wisdom of Africa. Check it out if you guys are interested. But he really talks about this this way of mentorship that, yes, every single child in the village is not only going to, I would say what we call conventional school, but they also have somebody who's a mentor, and it's not a parent or it's not a relative, it's someone in the community who kind of is looking at that kid and is identifying where their strengths naturally are and are guiding them and supporting them in that way. And even when I was just in Kenya, y'all. So even when I was in Kenya, I went to a school called Arise and Shine, and we were able to spend 2 days there. And the way that I saw them nurture and care for the kids, it really did feel like a real loving and genuine community that I don't see in our schools today. That really, I work in schools as well. I do girls programs in schools, and our schools just to me seem very, I mean, just, you know, they just seem there's we're all doing our best. You know, it's the system. It's not any individual person, but I just feel like there's not this catering to really guiding this young person to know that they matter just as they are. I feel like there needs to be more philosophy in school around students really understanding that they are unique and gifted and they're geniuses just as they are, just as they were born, just as God made them. Like and having, you know, someone really support that. I'm sorry, I veered from your question.
No, I was waiting for you to finish and I was going to ask again. So, and I'm glad so I figured there was something tied to education because you mentioned it several times. Yeah. So, given the education system is what it is, yes, it's not ideal. Yes. We're in full agreement. Okay. The education system in Africa also is not ideal. Yeah. And it also has as its ultimate goal to create functioning members of society. That's just people that can eventually work. Yes. Yes. Same as here, but obviously the tools are used differently. Mm-hmm. So that's why I asked. Like, I think doing what you were speaking about in terms of children and giving them that level of attention, that makes a lot of sense. I'm just curious, once these people become adults, what happens then?
I feel like those are the ones who are going to be the innovators and the entrepreneurs and the creators and the change makers, because they're at a place where they can think outside the box and be unique. And they're the ones who are going to make a difference in our society. When I think about you know, a lot. You just look at the world. Like, just walk outside. I mean, it's like we are all sort of, to me, sold this dream that we go to school, we get a job, and then it's like, then you're in the job, then you look for promotion, then you wait for the promotion, and it's just like this like constant stream of sort of taking the power outside of ourselves and putting it in somebody else. And I think that when we do this, we actually take our power back, and we're like, oh, I can be my own moneymaker. I can be my own generator. I can be my own creator. I can be my own, you know, person. Isn't that a concept? And I just don't know. Like, that's what I feel like. That's the world that I think we're actually going towards that world. Because if you look at sort of where the trends are right now, a lot of people are now working from home. A lot of people now are starting businesses. It's easier now to start a business more than it ever was. Information is accessible to everyone. Like, the information age is here.
Also, bad information is accessible to everyone. Let's be clear.
Yes. So we're trying to get somewhere here. So stay with me.
I got you.
So technology is making it really accessible for us to just make these online businesses. And I think that a lot of people are now traveling for work, or they are, people are wanting something different. They're craving something different. And what, like, I think the trends are even saying is by, like, I don't know, like 20 whatever, most jobs are going to have to start really thinking about how they're going to cater to people who, to this generation that's going to want more freedom.
That's fair. So several points you made there, and several points somewhat triggered more questions. Everyone. So yes, I don't think everyone should start a business. I'm glad everyone can start a business. I don't necessarily think, everyone should. Yes. But that's my biased opinion, because I don't know that everyone is a business person.
And that's not what I was saying. Okay. I'm not saying that everyone should start a business. I'm saying that
there's more flexibility
finding your thing, that you could be a singer, you can be an artist, you could be whatever. That's not a business. It's just what your passion or your purpose is. So I'm just using that as an example of of your own entrepreneurial spirit rather than like starting an actual business.
Copy that. when you're speaking of this condition, is that specific to America, or do you see that as like a worldwide thing? So this current condition that you were describing, where people are basically molded and following the path.
No, I think that's a worldwide thing. And hey, I mean, I think that, it's not, something has to come before something else, you know what I mean? And so I feel like we have to sort of have this experience in order to realize what is for us, what's not for us, right? If you look at just our parents stayed at the same job for multiple years, or they stayed at the same company they started for multiple years, and then when I graduated college, it was like, okay, make sure you stay at that job for at least 4 to 5 years. Like, companies want you to be at that one job for 4 to 5 years. And now it's like people stay at a job for 1 to 2 years. And I'm just like, whoa, like people just go, oh, I want to hear, I go here now. And they just hopping around, and it's like, and I can just already see where things are going, right? It's already leading towards that place of like, I was sold this idea, or this illusion that I have to do something, and people are now just realizing that they can make their own decisions and they can decide what it is that is most aligned with who they are, the decisions that they want to make, as opposed to what we've been told. We're moving away from an age of I told you so, and this is the my way or the highway, or one size fits all, into a more progressive and like
You feel that way even in this country?
I do. I feel like it's going to take a long time.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow. I don't think everyone's going to just walk out.
I was banking on tomorrow.
No, I don't think this is going to happen tomorrow, but I do believe that in years to come, that's where I do believe that's where society and humanity is going.
And how does that fit? So that philosophy, how do you align that with your soul circle events? What does that look like? What are these events for us who are outsiders or uninitiated? What does that look like? You don't have to give us all the secrets, but just give us an impression.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so the circles are designed for women to have a space for self-exploration and to and introspection, to really start looking within themselves and to identify for themselves where they might be stuck or stagnant and what needs to move within them to move more into happiness and fulfillment and joy. And so usually what happens at our circles are people come and we have a time for everybody to meditate and to start looking within. And then most of our circle is reflection, so journaling. They write about whatever the topic is, and they share it out. Because healing really happens in community and it happens in conversation. So when you hear somebody else expressing something, you're like, wow, I didn't know that someone else was going through that, or I didn't know that somebody else felt that way, or I feel less alone now because I know that there's 8 other women here that are expressing something very similar. And that's what brings us together, and that's what shows us that this is not something that we do in isolation. Humanity isn't something we do in isolation. Everything that we've experienced, emotion, feelings, we've all felt it one way or another, abandonment, rejection, happiness, joy, all these different emotions. That's what makes us human. And so a part of leading back to my higher vision, my ideal society, my utopia is that we all realize that we don't have to live in shame, and that we don't have to hide anymore, because your story is my story, right? We're interconnected and we need each other, and once we really get to that point, we come to a place of mutual understanding. And I think once we get to a place of mutual understanding, then we can move in a direction together. So the point of our circles are to remove separateness and division, and to create unity. And unity is by realizing that we're not that different, right? So that's the whole point.
Is there irony in the fact that we're one of the most connected societies virtually, yet we're so disconnected in reality, physically, sort of? Because the fact that you're talking about creating these communities or these environments where people can connect.
Yeah.
And you were talking about breaking division and breaking the separation. These are, so for example, circles are things that, you know, old tribes or some tribes still do in Africa, right? But these people aren't, quote unquote, connected. Yet we're in this society where we're all connected and yet also disconnected, where we need these extra things. Is that something that you're conscious of? Is that something that's just happenstance? Like, how do you see that?
No, I feel like the reason why we are, you know, women's circles are popping up all over the country, but they've been popping up all over the world. It's actually a trend that it's growing exponentially, actually, in terms of women wanting to come together. And now men, as you guys do, are following us and wanting to starting your own men's circles. Okay.
It's okay.
You know, no, it's good. We want y'all to, you know, get in touch
Empress
with your emotions and express yourselves, express your truth. Okay.
I got you.
No, I don't think it's surprising at all. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think, you know, a part of my purpose, and I think the whole underlying, you know, thing with Gloetry is to not totally forget old traditions and old ways. And our ancestors, they knew more about the natural world than we do now. You know what I mean? And so sitting in a circle was a way for indigenous people, Africans, to mirror what it meant to illuminate. So a sun, right? When you look at planets, the sun, for example, the moon, it was always something that illuminated. And a circle is when we sit down together and you're illuminating a part of something that was dark within you before that you didn't know about. So we want you to leave our circle with epiphanies. Also, when you think about the geometry of a circle, circles represent movement, right? If you look at the planets and the way they move around the sun, right? There's always a moving happening, right? You look at wheels or whatever, and so when we sit in circle, there's always movement happening. And what I usually tell my clients who learn how to do circles from me is that your participant should come into a circle and feel moved to some degree. Like emotion should have moved or transformation should have happened. Also circles represented safety. Whereas like hard objects represent more like something that was more dangerous, could be dangerous, you know. So there's a lot of symbolism in a circle. There's so much, like I could go into all of it.
Don't tell all the secrets.
But I'm not going to, you know, you can look it up on Google, actually. There you go. You can look it up on Google. It's the whole thing. But I think that we're coming to this place of circling up because we're just in desperate need.
You got to circle the wagons when you're in danger.
Yeah. We're just we're just in desperate need of being seen and being heard and being valued. And I think that, you know, for me, I'm learning and relearning how to be seen and heard and valued. You know, feeling that maybe like I didn't always get that as a child. So it's a deep thing.
So you mentioned men. And besides being a topic of discussion, what role do men play in these circles? If they play any role, not that they even have to play a role. I'm just curious.
Yeah, you know, I get a lot of different feedback from men, but I would say. And
to interrupt, I also asked that thinking about what you mentioned earlier, where I guess in the beginning men were included.
No, men weren't included. It was for all women.
I'm saying when you did it in your apartment.
No, it was for all women.
Oh, it was only women even at that time. But you said you had male friends who said they wanted to invite.
Oh, because I would ask my male friends to invite the girls they knew. And yeah, men have been very supportive of Gloetry. Yeah, like for real. Like I can't even like a guy I was dating for like a couple weeks.
Does he count?
Yes, he absolutely counts. He like found me even after we stopped seeing each other. He like found me a space to do the circles at, and then he sent people to my circles all the time, and he like
Is this over?
Oh yeah, it's like over. Like I don't even talk to this dude no more. Like we're not even like that. But he'll email me people. Like he'll still connect me with people. Like and I'm just using him as like an example. Like there's a lot of men out there that really are down with like this sort of work, and I've been very very, very pleased with that. I've been very, and I'm getting I just get a lot of good feedback from men. Some men will be like, oh, I'm going to start my own men's circle, or, whatever it is. Like they want to send their girlfriends or their wives or whatever. They want women to know their worth and their value. And, these men know that when a woman feels strong in her power, she feels supported, she feels sexy, she feels beautiful, she feels worth it, then, like we're obviously just going to have a better society. Yeah.
Earlier you mentioned that when you first started the circle, there were just women, but women of every background,
yes.
Right? Ethnicity.
Every ethnicity, yeah.
Do you think that we'll ever be able to have these frank conversations with everyone? Right?
Absolutely.
I do understand the need to have it the way you described it, women of color right now, but I'm just curious if we'll ever be able to get to have those, I guess, discussions or frank discussions or unfiltered discussions with everyone.
I do believe that we will at one point. For us, like I've had like men ask me like, well, why don't you include the black? I've had a lot of black men. I've had black men ask me. I'm not
necessarily talking about men. I'm even thinking like white women.
No, I know, but I'm getting somewhere with that of like being like, well, why don't you have white women in the circles too? And I think like in order for us to go forward, we have to go back to ourselves first. Before we can start having conversations with them, we have to really understand what's going on within us. And then once we really understand what's going on within us, then we can include them. Granted, they're doing their own work first. Before we come and have a conversation, y'all need to make sure that you're looking at your own white supremacist or your own privilege or your own contribution,
you a lot right
your
there.
Generational contribution to racism, to the status quo that we live in, to the benefits that you have as an individual. So it's like if you're doing your work and you are looking at that and you're taking full ownership and responsibility for being able to benefit from a society that puts you first, then we can have a conversation.
Oh, okay, good. That point,
and we're done. Moving on.
The point was made.
Yes.
I got you. Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Before we close out the show, just talking essentials, is your goal, or are you, because I don't know if this is the case now, is this something you can live off of in this world? I'm thinking, I'm sure you got bills and rents and all kinds of things and food to buy. How does this work? How does doing Gloetry take you to making a living, or does it not matter? Curious.
Oh, it matters.
Oh, okay.
Of course it matters. Yeah, no, it definitely is like, so I think it's important to state that like, I don't just do circles. Like I'm not just living,
not just in the middle.
I'm not just living off of one circle a month, at Heal House.
That's right.
I just want let's just make that statement clear on Real Radio right now. Cause it seems like that may have been the impression that I'm just meeting once a month and they're just living good life in New York with that. No, it's not happening at all. So my business there's a lot of aspects to the way that we, there's a lot of revenue streams or services and offerings that we have. And one is the circle. The circle is really just the community building. It's a way for people to come in and really experience what we do on that level. But we also do girls programs. So we partner with different schools around Brooklyn and they hire us to come in and do a series of workshops with their girls. We also do, staff retreats, faculty retreats. So we're essentially also educational consultants. So we'll go into schools and we'll have, like I have 2 schools that I'm going into in April that I'm doing leading all day retreats, healing retreats. So that's mainly what I do in Gloetry as an employee of Gloetry, is I'm a facilitator. And so I go into schools or I go into companies and I help them have conversations within themselves, or I help organizations build out events, facilitating events around honest conversations, heart-based conversations. Then we lead retreats, and then we also do coaching. So I coach people on how to do what I do, and that's how we make our bread.
I got you.
That's how we put it in the bag.
So now that we've established that, let the people know, before we close out the show, I want you to do another, basically let the people know what you have upcoming and where they can find you.
Okay. Yes, for all of you who just joined or did not hear before, if you are local to Brooklyn and you would like to experience a Soul Sister Circle, please join us at Heal House on March 20th. It's Friday from 7:30 to 9:30. You'll just need to bring, a journal and something to write with. Wear something cozy, and we're going to sit down and have a conversation around what it means to be seen and what is your relationship with being seen. And that's on Fulton in Bed-Stuy area of Brooklyn. And you can find us online at www.gloetry.co or at on our Instagram page, at Gloetry Assembly. And if you feel free to email me if you have any follow-up questions, my email is also on my website as well. And if you're ever interested in learning more about leading a circle in your area or your hometown, we do offer circle trainings, and we're more than happy to help you on that journey.
Thank you for coming in the show.
Thank you for having me.
Open door policy here. So anytime you want to come back, promote something, once you're a guest.
Always a guest.
That's right.
Guest for life.
That's how I get them.
Guest for life. You better watch out. I might just show up at the door like,
it's all good.
I got to promote something.
Listen, it's all good. If there's no guest, the floor is yours. And if you want to bump the guest, I'll be like, listen, I could close out the show. Hurry up. That's all good too. But thank you for coming.
Yes.
I think what you're doing is critical.
Thank you.
I'm very curious about it, but my curiosity is going to stay unsatisfied because I would never be able to join the circle. But I think that's good too. I think that's good too, because I think
safe space. Remember,
exactly. It's Real Radio. Thank you for listening. We're here Fridays 6:30 to 7:30. She said it better than I could.
Yes.
If you want to reach out to us, it's at CTN Creative. Our website is realradio.co. And yes, we will have video of this show. We'll see y'all next week, man. Peace.